Welcome to today's Explainer. Africa is home to some of the most incredible and, let's be honest, dangerous wildlife on the planet. But if we want to truly understand these threats, we've got to toss out the Hollywood myths. Today, we're putting on our biologist hats and diving deep into the actual biomechanics, evolutionary strategies, and biological weaponry of these animals. So, which animal is truly the most dangerous? When you think of the deadliest African wildlife, your mind probably jumps straight to a roaring lion, a stealthy leopard, or maybe a massive crocodile. But as we unpack the actual biological and statistical realities today, you're going to see that the true apex killer isn't at all what you might expect. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with brute force and territoriality, move into neurotoxic warfare, examine stealth and apex carnivores, and finally uncover the ultimate biological vector.
Section 1. Brute force and territoriality.
You see, evolution hasn't just equipped carnivores with deadly tools. It's also heavily armored the prey. The African buffalo, the hippopotamus, and the elephant. They all survive purely on vegetation. Yet, as a biological defense mechanism, they utilize their overwhelming physical mass to fight back against absolutely any perceived threat. It's a fascinating strategy. Let's look a bit closer at how they do it. Take the African buffalo, weighing in at a massive 2,000 pounds. This animal has earned a pretty dark reputation among wildlife experts as the Black Death. And why? Because their primary biological defense isn't flight, it's a highly aggressive, deeply unpredictable, and coordinated counterattack using devastating horns and just sheer momentum. Now contrast that expected behavior with the hippopotamus. Most people see them as slow, kind of harmless grazers. But the biological reality, it's terrifyingly different. Hippos are intensely territorial. They can actually outrun humans on land, and their enormous jaws act like hydraulic presses, crushing bone with absolute ease. Statistically speaking, they claim far more human lives than the apex predators we traditionally fear. And then there's the sheer physics of the African elephant. When provoked, the largest land animal on Earth can reach speeds of 20 miles per hour. I mean, that is an unstoppable biological force. While they're generally peaceful, if their defense mechanisms are triggered, say to protect their young, absolutely nothing in their path is going to halt that momentum. Moving right along to Section 2, neurotoxic warfare. Now we're shifting gears entirely. This isn't about physical crushing power anymore. It's about microscopic chemical disruption. A neurotoxin is a type of venom that directly attacks the nervous system. Think of it as short-circuiting the victim's biology. It paralyzes muscles and ultimately shuts down the respiratory system. It's a highly sophisticated and usually fatal evolutionary adaptation. What's really interesting is how different snakes deploy this weaponry. Faced with a threat, the black mamba and the Cape Cobra trigger completely divergent psychological adaptations. The mamba actually prefers to flee, but the second it feels cornered, it becomes explosively aggressive. The Cape Cobra, on the other hand, armed with one of Africa's most potent neurotoxins, will boldly stand its ground right from the jump. Now, combine that cornered aggression with terrifying speed. At 12 miles per hour, the black mamba is one of the fastest snakes on the planet. And here's a fascinating anatomical fact for you. The snake itself isn't actually black. That infamous name comes from the inky, dark interior of its mouth, which it flashes as a final, chilling warning before it strikes. Section 3. Stealth and Apex Carnivores. Let's talk about the hunters. Let's look at the Nile crocodile, nature's absolute master of the motionless ambush. Lurking in murky waters, a 16-foot, 1-ton reptile can actually lower its heart rate and remain perfectly still for hours on end. Its true biological advantage is patience. When the moment strikes, it launches an explosive attack, utilizing a record-breaking bite force. Honestly, the victim rarely even sees it coming. And within the big cats, we see two completely divergent evolutionary paths. You have the lion, which relies on complex social structures, using teamwork and coordinated strategy to overpower massive prey. And then you have the leopard. This is a solitary, silent assassin. Relying entirely on stealth, leopards strike from the shadows almost completely without warning. Two very different, but equally deadly biological strategies. Of course, we have to extend our biological survey just off Africa's southern coastline to acknowledge the great white shark, nature's ultimate aquatic predator.
Its evolutionary adaptations are basically perfect. Powerful jaws lined with razor-sharp teeth designed for maximum cutting efficiency. While attacks on humans are statistically pretty uncommon, their sheer speed, precision, and immense biological power make any encounter absolutely unforgettable.
Which brings us to our final category, Section 4, the ultimate biological vector.
To find the true apex threat on this continent, we actually need to completely flip our methodology. Step 1, discard the giant jaws and brute force. Step 2, shift our focus to microscopic disease transmission. And Step 3, identify the deadliest vector. So, what about the number 1 killer? After examining the strategic teamwork of lions, the record-breaking bite force of crocodiles, and the bone-crushing power of massive herbivores, what single creature poses the greatest statistical danger to human life in Africa? It's the mosquito. I know, it sounds crazy, but the deadliest animal in Africa isn't a giant predator at all. It's this tiny insect. It just goes to prove a really harsh biological reality. Sometimes the absolute greatest danger comes in the smallest possible package. When you look at this statistical data, the disparity is just staggering. By acting as a biological vector and transmitting microscopic diseases like malaria, mosquitoes claim hundreds of thousands of human lives every single year. Statistically, they are responsible for far more deaths than all the buffalo, hippos, crocodiles, and lions combined. They are unequivocally nature's most lethal biological vector. We've analyzed massive brute force, silent assassins, and potent neurotoxins today, but the data proves our deepest primal fears are often totally misplaced. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder. In a world where a tiny insect is statistically vastly more lethal than a roaring lion, how much of our fear of the wild is actually based on biology, and how much is just human imagination? Keep questioning, and I will see you in the next explainer.